network connection. Okay, hi everyone. Here we are live on Facebook. This is Monique and Lina, and thank you for joining us tonight. For those of you who know about the event and are joining us, thank you for tuning in for the next maybe hour or so. Let's see. We're going to try to keep it to an hour or less for you tonight. But today we are celebrating SOAR with Your Strengths Day. And let me explain a little bit about what that is. So I'm Monique Catoggio, for those of you who have not met me before. I am a business, a life coach, but I focus on strengths, on what's unique about each and every one of us. You know, that talent that we were born to use in our lifetimes and continue to grow and develop. Hi, Nancy. How are you? And I'm a GALLUP certified strengths coach. So this year, it just so happens that I've joined a movement. It's a very powerful movement of coaches all over the world, the majority of whom are also strengths-based coaches. And our mission is to uplift humanity by introducing them to the best of who they are naturally and bringing those talents and those strengths into business and also into our homes. And that's what we want to talk about tonight, is really becoming strengths-based in your leadership, in your development as business owners, and also as parents, because at home it just works miracles. And so many of us are not just leaders and small business owners, but we're also parents, right? We're all of these things. And so tonight's conversation will definitely help you think about how you can become more strengths-based, lead with your strengths, leverage your strengths, and do that with your team members and with your children and spouses as well. So that's a little bit of an introduction. I didn't mention that SOAR, this SOAR community, is a new platform for coaches who really want to get out there and spread the good news about the work that they're doing and helping others succeed in their lives. And if you're interested in learning more about that community, just write me a little note and I will share that with you, because we're looking to expand our network in Miami. I'm the Miami SOAR Evangelist, and I'm looking to really grow our community of coaches here in Miami that want to make a difference and help others. So just drop me a note about that. So now I want to introduce you to one of my very best friends. It just so happens that she's one of my very best friends, and we just love doing Facebook Lives together.
Yes, we do.
We always have so much fun. And Lina is the founder and director of a business here in Miami called Stop Parenting Alone. And so in my mind, when I thought about who I wanted to celebrate SOAR with Your Strengths Day and have an interesting and meaningful dialogue, I thought of Lina first, because I honestly don't know anyone better in Miami who is so passionate about strengths. And she became a strengths-based business from day one. Okay, from day one. So she can share a lot about that with us, which she will tonight. And in addition to that, she's a parenting expert. So when we want to talk about the power of bringing strengths into your family, which is really going to help you parents, by the way, you know, it's not something extra that you need to do. It's actually going to give you a sigh of relief. Lina can tell us why, why strengths are really important and how they can help. And tonight, we're going to leave you with some easy tips to get started with strengths, either in your business or at home. And at the end of the conversation, I'll let you know how you can get on my list so that Lina and I can share information with you and resources and tools and things like that. So why don't we go ahead and get started? And Lina, so what I wanted to ask you first was, why was it important for you to start your organization, your business from day one as a strengths-based organization? Like, what was going through your mind?
Well, when I came upon GALLUP Strengths, and I knew what it was. So, in a nutshell,
right.
GALLUP Strengths is a test.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
A fun test, better than the ones that you take on Cosmo.
It's heavily backed by research.
Way more beneficial. That really tells you your talents, right? What you're good at. And why did I want to be a strength-based business? 3 reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One, because prior to opening Stop Parenting Alone, the work that I had done before was on my own. It was like I was a solopreneur. 2, I was actually really kind of like overwhelmed by the idea of managing several people. Even though I'm a psychotherapist, psychotherapy is one thing.
Right.
Managing and leading a group of people is a different hat that you have to wear.
Yeah.
And lastly, because I know that whenever you ask someone to do something that they're not good at,
Right.
that it doesn't match their value system, that they cannot connect with,
Yeah.
it is incredibly difficult to keep it up.
Yeah.
Inevitably, when you ask someone to do something that they don't feel that they have a connection to and they are not authentic with, it's just not going to work.
Right.
So why from day one? Because I wanted to see the people in my business, the psychotherapists that I work with and the administrative help that we have in our space, what were their strengths. I wanted them to take the Gallup Strengths quiz, which everybody can take, which is awesome. And then from that point of view, I could take a look at what I can ask them to do.
Right.
And also, it has been actually very helpful when a person comes into our space that's looking for psychotherapy or looking for parenting education. Since I know my therapist's strengths, I'm also going to match them with the right client.
Beautiful.
So for me, it was about, I don't ever want to ask someone to do something that isn't authentically themselves.
Right.
And this is a tool, a valuable tool, like you said, an evidence-based research tool that was going to help me do all of the above.
Beautiful. So it's really a power tool for you and for your therapist.
100%.
Yeah.
And for our clients. Because again, yes, I know their clinical ability as psychotherapists, but I also know what their strengths are, right? And I also know how to help them, how to manage them. Like one of my clinicians, one of my psychotherapists, one of her strengths is input.
Yeah.
So if I give her a hard case, I know that I have to give her lots of information ahead of time. And just kind of sit with her and give her as much tools and report. Like she's the one that I can give a lot of reports to.
Right.
But the ones that are relators,
they don't want to read much.
They don't want to read anything. They want to sit with me,
Yes.
and for us to have a back and forth. So I think that's incredibly important. And the other thing about the strengths is that I know where we're weak.
Right.
So when I hire, I'm going to hire the person that's going to add to the team.
And we've had so many conversations, right, where we're sitting here and going, what do you need? Where are the gaps? Let's look at the strengths that are really going to highlight the work that you're doing and bring in someone who's really going to take you to that next level in a certain
100%.
area. It sounds also like this way of operating also helps you as the business owner, right? Because we tend to wear many hats as a business owner, but now that you know who you can give certain things to, it also helps you to understand where you could save time.
Yes.
Right? And be more productive as a business owner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I would say that for so long I worked for myself.
Right.
Right? So I did everything.
Everything.
From like ordering the toilet paper to to the actual thing that I was doing.
Right.
And delegating is such an important skill as it pertains to a business.
Yeah.
But it's also an important skill as it pertains to a family.
Yeah.
And parenting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in the workplace, even if there's something that we as leaders enjoy doing, if we have the opportunity to give that to someone on our team who has it as a strength and or as a talent and can make it into a strength by doing more of it, we're serving them as leaders, right? So not having to do everything ourselves is really good for our own productivity, for creating space in our lives as leaders and professionals, but also helping to develop our people.
And another thing, some of my psychotherapists and some of the people in our team have strengths that I don't have.
Right.
So there are things that the beauty of me being able to say, I can't, you can't, from their leader, from the person that manages them, and that's everybody wants to feel that way about the person that they work with. They want to hear, you got this.
Yes.
And it's great, and I love that we can dialogue about it, like, as a team.
Right. So that's what I wanted to talk about next. And let's see. Nancy says, so important to know your team and your clients. Yes. Absolutely, it's a win-win all around. Talk to me about how the language in your organization has shifted. Like, how do they talk about strengths? How have things changed now that all of you have had many strengths sessions, many strengths team building sessions, and it really has become a part of your culture in your organization?
I think the first way is that we've used it as humor.
Yeah.
So I'll hear somebody tell me, Lina, remember, and then they'll tell me their strength.
Oh, Lina is so responsible.
Exactly.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, futuristic Lina.
Yes.
Thinking ahead for all of us. So
right.
I think in one way it's a lexicon. It's a language that we use amongst ourselves. I think the other way is with the coaching, like you being here for us,
right?
And helping, and again, like I want everybody that is watching this to think about, we are psychotherapists, supposedly, we know how to relate to everyone. Well, no, sometimes you need an extra something.
Yes.
Right. And what I love about GALLUP Strengths and what I love about this tool is that it stays in the space of just working from your greatest self.
Yes.
So I think that everybody that's in our space as a team, we know that we are all pushing one another to work within our talent. So I think that's the number one takeaway. Like, and oftentimes, like, when things have not worked out, is because I have forgotten.
Right.
I have forgotten to keep in mind how they work best.
Right. And before that leads me to another question. I want to mention, I'm not going to throw stats at you tonight, but all you need to know, and if you want the stats, email me or I'll tell you how to get in touch with us. I'll share them with you because they're powerful. Because Gallup, what they do well is research, right? They're one of the predominant research institutions in our country, in the world. And so they know how to give us this powerful information. What we know for certain is that individuals who use strengths on a daily basis, their happiness spikes, their well-being spikes, their engagement in their work every single day spikes. Productivity, profitability for businesses, all of these things are things that we want and need, right? And one of the best tools that we can use to achieve those goals, those things that we want to feel, and those success points that we want to reach in our business come from using our strengths day in and day out. So it's really just an easy to use tool, and these things happen naturally. Still today in the workforce, disengagement is at an all-time high. So upwards of 80% almost of professionals are disengaged. They're just showing up because they don't know what else to do. They need a paycheck, but they're not putting their best foot forward. They're not shining, right? And that's what we're here on this earth to do, is to take our talents and shine them and grow them so that we can uplift humanity and change the world. So speaking to forgetting strengths, what are some of the ways that you have in your organization tried to make it commonplace, tried to make it very visible, something that you all don't forget, that you remind each other of? I know that one of the biggest challenges for a lot of people is keeping it present, not taking the assessment, sticking it in a drawer and forgetting about it. In fact, every time I run into someone who I know who has taken strengths and I ask them, what are your top 5? I pray that they could call them off in order like that. And when they do, I know that they're using them every single day. But what are some of the ways that you all keep them present of mind?
We have them in the closet.
In your closet. Okay, good.
So when you open one of our closets, you see everybody's name. At one of our meetings with you let us know that we should tell each other when we observe one another using one of our talents. And we have these little, like, strength, like little no, they're little kind of like little envelopes that we like give each other little notes.
Beautiful strengths notes, love notes.
Strengths notes. Like, I watched you used your input strength,
right?
And so again, it's a beautiful thing, and I would say that it's a neurological hack. Like,
right?
There's something the brain. Whatever you tell it to give attention to, it will. Right? So if you and I tonight tell ourselves we're going to buy ourselves a Tesla,
right?
We're all of a sudden going to see Teslas everywhere in Miami. And it's not like there's more Teslas. They've always been there.
We're paying attention to it.
It's just that we gave our brain direction.
Yes.
Look for the Teslas.
Yes.
Right? So again, having our little envelopes in the closet.
And it's just acknowledgement and validation, right?
Yeah.
I'll read this, because really the strength movement comes down to this. What would happen if we studied what was right with people versus what was wrong with people? So all of a sudden, we're highlighting and celebrating the things that we used to judge before, right?
Yep.
Why is she so picky, right? Why is she so... why is she always asking me how I'm doing? She's too touchy-feely. But, right, so these are things that we would judge in someone before. And now when we know that it's coming from a strength, right, we see it differently. And we can validate it and we can celebrate it in our businesses and in parenting, of course.
And, I think that futuristic strength that I have, where I can, I can see 10 years from now and it doesn't upset me.
Right.
Because some people see something like far away and then like it overwhelms them, but that's my strength, right? So, but I think I'm the only one in the office that has a futuristic strength, but I think that when they know that about me, it's just like, it's Lina being Lina.
It's Lina being Lina. She's doing what she has to do.
Right.
What's inherent, right? When you tell someone to do something, to stop doing something that's so inherent to who they are.
Right.
Ooh, we disengage like that. And in fact, research shows that in the engagement, we have this called Q12. It's 12 questions that really help us to understand why people get engaged or disengaged. And one of the things that we know is that when we have at least one person in our lives, one person in our life who cares about us and really can shine that mirror up to us and say, wow, you're extraordinary for these reasons, and they celebrate our talents, our disengagement just falls away, right?
Yeah.
So we can switch that.
And I'll add to that statistic because back in California, when I worked with a lot of traumatized children, I was trained by the National Child and Trauma Institute. And what they taught us was that, of all the children that have been traumatized due to a medical trauma or physical or sexual abuse, only 20% of them, around 20% of them, will get a mental health diagnosis. Wow. So all of us were like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Like, so I only see 20% of the population. And then, so I am, I'm like, wait, hold on. What? I don't understand that. And it's the 80% that do not is because they had one loving, consistent adult, which matches what you just said.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And it's that has helped them,
Yeah.
So it's all over the place, right? So Gallup knows about it as it pertains to strengths. The trauma world knows about it as it pertains to trauma.
And if we were just to pay a little more attention to that,
right,
we could change one life at a time.
Yep.
Right? Let's look at it that way. So share with us what your strengths are, and how do you leverage your strengths?
Okay, so my number one strength is activator.
Okay.
Right? So what that means is that I see something, I see somebody's abilities, I think of an action, and I immediately want to put it into play.
Okay.
Right, so
Launch.
Right, exactly.
Launch.
So as an activator, I light people's ambers.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And I don't necessarily do it for you, but I light it and then I go, okay, going out. Now, that's a beautiful strength. Now, how it could be a weakness is that I also get really impatient.
Right. Right.
So,
yeah,
and that's also good about the strengths.
Yes. Yes.
Knowing the yin and the yang of the strength.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah.
And then the
we
other
call
one,
it the balcony in the basement, right? So when it's the balcony, we're using it to its highest and best good, right? But when it's at the basement, it could really affect us negatively and become a weakness.
Right.
Yeah.
So my number 1 is activator. My number 2 is strategy. So that means that, the way that I understand it is like I take $1,000 piece puzzle and I could put it all together,
right?
And I can see the different levels of it.
The different levels, and also you probably have like plan A, plan B, plan C. So
Always.
if I choose this pathway and it doesn't go well, I'm ready to shift. I know how to solve it.
And I would say that as it pertains to when I'm doing a parent consult, or when I am in psychotherapy with a client, or if I am doing mental health consulting with one of the schools that I work with, that is the number 1 strength that I use.
Yeah, strategy.
The strategy to listen, to understand, and then to put it into tiny little buckets. Beautiful. Right? So, because again, I can take this puzzle that's thrown on the ground and then I can make it happen. Number 3 is responsibility.
I know her really well. She's highly responsible.
And, it's this, this concept of like, it's just kind of owning what I do, what's my side of the street.
Yes.
Always being accountable. And
if you say you're going to do something,
I will do
you
it.
do it.
I will do it.
Come hell or high water.
No matter what. So that's my 3rd strength. My 4th strength is futuristic, like we talked about before. So, I can tell you what I want to do in 20 years, in 10 years, in 5 years, in 2 years.
Yes.
When you go to those events and they're like, okay, tell us in 5 years.
Close your eyes. It'll take you 20 years forward.
I always judge myself. I'm like, I'm done. So, and again, it's being able to look beyond what's in front of me. But it's really neat, and I'm grateful that I could be futuristic and an activator.
Yes.
Because that makes it so that what I see in the future, I can actually take action on.
Yeah, and the power and strengths, especially when you know your top 5, is in looking at how they work together. Yeah. We call them theme dynamics. And it just creates these powerhouse relationships with your strengths that really get you to see yourself and your abilities and your capabilities in a completely different way. Right. It's magical.
Yeah. And then my last one is relator, of course. I mean, I am a therapist. Not woo. Not woo. Relator. Like, a lot of people think that I would have woo, but I don't. It's like all the way at the bottom.
It's at the bottom. Yeah.
So for me, and I think the way that it works within me, a relator is somebody that takes the responsibility of a relationship, right? So I think those two work really well together.
And it's why I believe, having worked with you and your therapist and knowing your clients, why they trust you so much. Because they feel your responsibility, and you can relate to them, in such a beautiful way that they give their trust to you.
Yeah. 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 So I am activator, strategic, responsibility, futuristic, and relator. Beautiful. Those are my top 5 strengths.
So let's see. Nancy has another comment. It's a blessing to live authentically, and even more of a blessing when we can help others celebrate. Yes. we need more and more people to kind of come on this bandwagon with us, because I go back to my days in corporate and seeing so many disengaged individuals that I can't make changes for them. We can only suggest that they change themselves, right? But again, if they're in a dire situation and they're disengaged, just having that one person acknowledging and validating their talents and their strengths and giving them an opportunity to shine can make such a difference and take a lot of that weight off their shoulders. And you can start seeing that that engagement rise just by that one person.
And I would say for anybody that's stuck, thinking about, but what am I and who am I doing? Just getting the top 5.
That's it. Yeah,
can really help you, and then working with a coach, and working with somebody to understand how these work together. And it's really it was so much fun when I first got them to kind of be like, I'm gonna try my relator strength in this situation, but then I got to see exactly what you said, like how you match. And of course I got so into it that I got all 34. Right.
And in the beginning, really all you need is the top 5, because we think that we know ourselves, but the more time we spend with those top 5, we begin to see intricacies about ourselves, and we start seeing examples that have played out in the world with our different relationships and different outcomes that we could tie directly to the balcony and or the basement of one of these top 5. And then later on, you can begin to look at all 34, and a coach can definitely work with you on introducing you to yourself through the top 34. So yeah, you mentioned a couple tips. So a way to get started if you're a leader or a business owner, number 1, just take the assessment. Go to GALLUPStrengthsCenter.com. It's so inexpensive. I think it's $20 or less.
$20.
And you get your top
$20 on a bad lunch.
You sure do. And I hope you never do again, but it's going to happen. The best $20 you'll ever spend, the reporting that they give you, the reports that they give you about who you are. Some of you will cry.
Yeah.
Because you're happy to read, see yourself again.
Yeah.
And so take the assessment. If you have a team, I want to encourage you to at least your first direct reports, get their reports as well, and build your team, and you can see a visual of your team. And again, these are ways that I can support you and send you resources if you're interested. So take the assessment. You want to begin to share openly, right? So once you take it, you don't want to ignore it. Share it with each other. Find fun ways to bring it into your office. A lot of organizations will have like a Talent Tuesday, and they'll each talk about how they're using their talents this week, or what talent they want to leverage this week and why, and pair them up with their goals and things like that. You want to consider working with a coach to help you really dive deep and understand your talents. The next thing you want to do is play to them. Again, every single day, look at your talents when you're planning and say, how am I going to leverage them today? Again, you want to be happier, more productive, more profitable. Yep. You want to leverage them every single day. And then finally, you want to celebrate them, right? You want to, in the Gallup world, we call it fill the bucket, right? So many organizations will buy a bucket, put it on everyone's desk, similar to what you're doing. And you want to put love notes in there for people. When you see them do something using their talents, and when you see them making their talents into strengths because they're investing them with time, with skill, with knowledge, and making them stronger, we want to celebrate that. So those are the ways that you can get started. And so if you're interested in learning more, just let us know. And at the end, again, I'll tell you how to stay in touch with us. So now let's kind of shift directions and talk about parenting.
Yes.
And family, and how to build strengths-based families. And I'll tell you that there's no coincidence that I'm a strengths-based coach. I think I was just born to be a strengths-based coach because of the challenges that I went through in parenting, in finding the right place for my children, in education, in lobbying for them and lobbying for their talents and their strengths. And it's not always easy to do that. It's hard to do that. And I won't make this story long because it's very long, but I'll try to make it as short as possible and say, my son is now, I have a son and a daughter. My son is going to be 20 in January. My daughter's going to be 14, going into high school next year. And Jacob, when he was young, he was this just super hyper, just loving, active child, as most of our children are. Yep. And some of the schools that he was in, they were not really acknowledging the talent in him. What they were focusing on was all of the weaknesses, right? And they would tell me, he's not doing this, and he's not adjusting, and he's not this, and he's not that. And I said, I realize that, but he's 5 years old in kindergarten. Why are you sending him home with an F? Right? Because this beautiful child with so much energy and love all of a sudden started coming home depressed at the age of 5 and with F's. And what the school would tell me is, if he doesn't fit our mold and our process, and if he can't, if all the children can't go at the same pace together, then this is not the right place for him. And I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. This is not the right place for him. But getting to that point was hard as a parent. Painful. It's very painful because you feel like your children are being judged. And so it took a while, and it took removing him from several schools to find the right school that was strengths-based. That, what this school did was just every single day tell the children, you are a leader, you are an artist, you are intelligent, and they would just light them up and really work with them in leveraging their talents and managing the weaknesses. You know, all of our kids have weaknesses.
Yes.
For some it's going to be math, for some it's going to be science, for some it's going to be English. And so wouldn't it be great if we built them up and made them really strong in the things that they're naturally gifted at, so they could feel magnificent about who they are? And then, yes, get them the support that they need in their weaknesses, but don't tell them to do the thing that they're not great at 90% of the time, because they will come home depressed and sad, and they're going to lose their light. They're going to lose their light. And so long story short, I think this change is what helped my son. You know, today he speaks the strengths language. He knows his top 5. Every single day we'll have conversations like, he'll tell me, Mom, I think I'm in futuristic mode way too much because I'm worried about 5 years from now. And I said, honey, yeah, you're right. So how can you tone that down a little? You know, you still want to plan for your future. It has supported him tremendously,
of course.
Right? He knew exactly where he wanted to go for school and for college. And he did it, and he's thriving as a student in college. But he knows when to really power up his strengths and when he's using them a little bit too much. So let's dive into the development of children and how, knowing what you know about strengths and knowing what you know about parenting and the development of children, why is the strengths-based approach a really smart and just helpful approach for parents and families?
First and foremost, there is a large chunk of time in a child's development where they have concrete cognition.
Okay.
And concrete cognition means that you see the world in black and white.
Okay.
Good and bad, right? Pleasure, pain. A lot of you that are watching us right now have heard your kindergartner or your second grader or your third grader say that somebody is a loser or somebody is stupid, and they know that the S word is a bad word,
right?
Or that they are dumb, or that they right, because they do a lot. They cannot hold the ambiguous condition,
right?
Cognition, of being able to see the gray in things. That today I can't do my math problem because I'm tired and I'm confused and I need a little extra help. They don't understand that it's just for today.
Right.
So when we tell them something like, why aren't you concentrating? You never concentrate. Their concrete mind will hold on to, I can't concentrate.
Right.
Right. I will never learn math. And they have, and like, I know that parents out there are hearing their babies tell them, as you know, especially that kid, that kinder, first and second grade, you don't love me. You love my sister more than me. Right. Because they're concrete. Right. So when we, like, I love that they have this book.
Yes.
Like, please, like, you know,
we're going to talk about this book
there's
in a minute.
lot of like parenting books out there, but this one makes a lot of sense because, you know, if you can tell your child, yes, baby, you're having a hard time right now with your math, but you are, and then their strength, and then using that strength on how to figure out this math problem, then that's so different than I'm not good at math. Right? So what the strengths will force you to do is to pull out of their black and white thinking. But I want to, all the parents that are listening to this, if you have a child, you know, 3.5 to 10 and a half, they are doing this.
Right.
You know, and some people never outgrow this. You know, these are the types of people that split the world into, you're either my friend or my enemy.
Right.
You're either good or bad. You know, I'm either going to do this or that. And again, why is strengths important and how does it work as it pertains to development? I tell parents, and I didn't make this up, this was Gottman, who is a great man. But, you know, I want parents to have a 3-to-1 ratio, meaning that for every one negative interaction that you have with your child, you better make sure that you have 3 positive ones before the end of the day. So if you use a tool like GALLUP strengths, that could be one of your 3, you know, and the other 2 can be a little kiss in the head, and the other one could be a little hug, right? Because positive interactions doesn't necessarily have to be vocal. You know, there's 3 ways to connect to a child: voice, touch, hold, right? And by the way, for marriages is 5-to-1.
Ooh. We better get busy.
I know, right? So I would say that as it pertains to development, especially in the younger years, it's also going to give you a better framework. I know that a lot of parents get stuck on telling their children what they're doing wrong.
Right. And in education and in the world, we're told that the only way they're going to be successful is if they're in STEM, for example, instead of the creative arts.
Right.
Well, it just so happens both of my children are highly skilled in the creative arts, right? And less likely to ever have a career in STEM. So if I were that black and white parent, and I thought that the only way that I could be successful, my family could be successful, my children could be successful, is if I stick them in STEM and force them to be scientists and mathematicians, then what I'm doing to their souls,
If you, just like for my psychotherapist,
right?
If you know what your child does well, if you can build on that talent, you could do just about
anything, right? Because, it doesn't pertain to a specific job or function.
No, because and you can help them through the things that are a little bit harder if you can walk them through the way that they see and are authentically in the world. And what a beautiful thing that GALLUP has done, so that parents can kind of yes, it's a little bit different because it's not set in stone. It's a growing child.
It is a growing child.
And more will be revealed, but at least you get like a foundation, and I, again, as a parent, your children take their safety cues from you.
Right.
So if you can honor their strengths most of the time, and they can feel effective and sufficient, guess who is not going to get that one thing that Tony Robbins always says, that people have that injury of not good enough?
Yeah, right. Yes, that's predominant in most of us, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I love what in the book they talk about. They say, and you're going to love this because I think it's very much aligned with Stop Parenting Alone, which is there is no one right way to parent.
No.
Right? And if we could, as parents, honor that, like every day wake up and say, I don't have to parent like Sally. I don't have to parent like Robert. I just need to parent my way and based on who my children are. It just takes so much of that stress off of your shoulders as a parent, and that black and white, that kind of comparisonitis that we can tend to fall into.
It's true.
Right? Because these cultures of these schools, not that they're bad, it's just schools have very strong cultures.
They do.
They do. And we don't always fit those cultures perfectly. So we have to really maneuver. And using strengths is a wonderful way to honor yourself as a parent, using your strengths, and also honor the talents that your children were born with. That if we really give them the time and space to use them, to grow them, we're gonna see those strengths develop even stronger and stronger.
Correct.
Into adulthood.
Correct.
Right? And the same goes for children and families as it does for organizations. Happiness increases, productivity increases, well-being in general, right? Mind, body, soul,
and
spirit.
We all want to be witnessed.
Yeah.
And we all want to be seen, and we all we are a social animal. Human beings are social animals, and one way to feel good is to know that somebody witnesses us and knows our goodness.
Yes.
Right? And again, I think I'm happy that GALLUP has done this work.
Yeah.
And it backs up a lot of what we help parents to do, because the whole point of me opening Stop Parenting Alone was because I always tell parents, I have expertise on children, but I am not an expert on your child.
Right.
You are the expert of your child.
You're the expert of your child.
Right, so I will give you the information, and then together, we will work together at figuring out how best to guide, mentor, and teach this individual that you brought into the world.
Yes.
And again, if you can use GALLUP strengths as one of your tools to guide, mentor, and teach that little citizen that you brought into the world, well, more power to you, because it's a very, very positive tool.
Yeah. I remember for a long time, when both of the kids were, hi Deanne, how are you? Welcome. When both of the kids were in the same school. And, in parenting, a lot of times it is helpful if you have these, what do you call them? patterns, right?
Routine.
Routine. Thank you. That's the word. Routine. And but in my case, my children had such different strengths that I couldn't really keep them on the same routine when it came to homework, for example. I had to allow them to do their homework in different ways so that they felt good about doing their homework instead of dreading it, right? And so that was a shift for me. But I realized that it was actually so much better for us as a family to individualize them instead of trying to pattern them together in their routines. And it just so happens that my top 3 strength is individualization, right? So using my strengths and knowing what my strengths were as a parent, and really sitting down and saying, how can I use my strengths to now support my children, is part of this process, right? And that's how we do it as a family. You can actually sit down and create your own family chart of all your strengths to see, what's daddy really great at, right? And what's mommy really great at? And where are their holes? And how can we fill those holes as a family? It's such a wonderful way to engage as a family.
What a great way to choose chores.
What a fantastic way to choose chores. Absolutely. Yeah. I think my kids, as long as they could play music, they would do anything.
They would be fine.
Yeah, they'd be fine. Their creativity, their ideation is very high. So, so Lina, from your perspective, what would you say, how would you support parents, or what tips would you give parents, thinking of like the families that you work with, if they wanted to become a strengths-based family, what would you suggest to them based on what you know?
Well, I would say that once you know your children's strengths, go back to your routine.
Okay.
Go back to your rules.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to your family's values.
I love this. Yeah.
Right? Because, there are 3 musts to parenting.
Okay.
Consistency and response.
Mm-hmm.
How do you respond to your child? Are you a slot machine? Do
Okay.
they sometimes win and do they sometimes lose?
Yes.
The worst thing you could do as a parent is to become a slot machine.
Ooh, yes. I feel that.
This is why we keep playing the slots, because
Right.
sometimes we win. So if sometimes you let them in the bed and sometimes you don't. By the way, as a child development person, I do not have an opinion about whether or not they go in your bed, but if they're going to go in your bed, they should always go in your bed.
Powerful.
Not sometimes,
Right.
right? So consistency and response is a must of parenting. Routine is a must of parenting, and teamwork amongst the caregivers is a must of parenting, right? And caregivers are teachers, coaches, nannies, your partner that you
maybe relatives who spend a lot of time.
The relatives that take care of your children on a regular basis, right? So the teamwork has to be that everybody's on the same page. Now, how amazing if we knew the children's strengths, and then we can tell abuela,
right?
Pero mami, es que el niño, has a strength, and that's why I don't make him clean, the table, because what I know about him is that he really is good at strategizing and organizing,
right? And he needs to spend time doing those things.
Doing that in what we help him do, right?
And here's the thing. Let me just jump in and say that when we allow our children and our staff, okay, let's go back and forth between profession and family, because it's all a family, it's all a tribe. Either way you look at it, it's all a system. The more we work within our strengths, the more energy it gives us, right? So think of those days where we go home exhausted and we just don't have any strength to cook dinner, exercise, spend time with our children or our spouse. When we spend like 80-20 rule, spend, as much time as possible, 80% or not if more, working in our talents, we're just going to build more and more energy for ourselves and fill that bucket.
Right.
Okay,
so I would say, once you use this great tool and you know the strengths of your children, go back to, maybe that rule that they're not following is because it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense now.
To them.
Yes.
In the way that they see the world, in the way that they are authentically in the world, right? So a little person that has a woo strength.
Yes.
And then we're asking him to sit quietly in the classroom and not call attention to himself.
Oh, it's
we're
dreadful.
asking him not to breathe.
Right. Oh.
Right?
Yes.
So if we know that, then we can tell the teacher, okay, he has the strength. It's called woo.
Right.
Right? Why don't you let him be your helper in those times when you notice that he's calling attention to himself?
Right. Right.
It's a completely way of looking at all of it. So go back to your rules, go back, and then family values.
Okay. Yes.
Right. This is a big thing for me, and I would say that if you're pregnant or you have young children or you have children that are adolescent,
Okay.
make sure that you are very, very clear on your 5 core values. Right? Because if I know my values, I can choose my rules.
Yes.
Because rules are about helping your child learn something.
Mm-hmm.
They're not about punishing.
Right.
They're not about controlling. Right? So in our home, you know, when we start something, we finish it, of course, because their mama has our responsibilities, right?
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
I pass
But
along,
it's a foundation.
but it's a
the
foundation,
foundation.
right? So then the way that my strength of responsibility shows up in the values of my family is that one of our strongest, you know, we call ourselves Team Sandaal. One of our strongest Team Sandaal values is integrity.
Right.
Right? And each of them are going to express it in different ways.
Yeah.
So again, every rule that I make is like, are we in integrity?
Yeah.
Are we honest? Are we kind? Right? So I would say that, you know, how are those values going to be expressed in your children's 5 strengths?
Yeah.
Right? In the way that I express the value of integrity with my 5 strengths is very different than the way my husband expresses integrity.
What a beautiful family activity to do together, right?
Yes, right. And because because I have this strength and I see integrity in a particular way, I may not witness it in my husband.
Right.
But then if I look at it if I look at the value of integrity through his strengths
and through his lens,
then I'm not going to get my feelings hurt.
Right. Right.
Right?
Yeah,
so
and mommy is not tough. Mommy's just responsible.
Correct. And also so again, it's about going back, looking at your rules, looking at your routine. Is your routine just something that your child can't do? I love what you said. You had to figure out how do these children in their strengths do this very difficult task of homework.
Right.
Right? And also if you know their strengths, you're gonna have an easier time choosing a school.
And that was the case for me. And once I found the right school, they never left.
And let's say that you end up in your neighborhood school because you know you that's what you have to do.
Right.
Now you have a language to use with your teacher. Right,
and you lobby the teachers, and I use that word really gently, not in a negative way, but we are lobbyists for our children.
Yeah,
we are advocates for our children, and so you know, to your point, I saw certain. I'm going to tell you now how to assess your children's strengths, right? Because it's not the same as an adult, but you begin to strength spot, to understand the language of strengths in your children without taking an assessment. And I knew that my daughter, for example, was a leader. And so I have conversations with her principals all the time about, if you want to see her really shine and really step into her power, you need to give her some leadership positions. Not all the time, not every day, but that is something that she thrives on, that she just shines.
She can build on.
And she can build on. And so this is how we become advocates for our children, by just having those dialogues with their teachers, with their principals, if possible, and just showing up and really just being, living within that language. So let's see. Okay, so I want to now, since we're running out of time, and we definitely want to end this within the hour.
Yes.
Yes, give you some tips for those of you with children who want to assess their strengths, okay? So obviously, Strengths Finder 2.0, which is the one that adults use, you can begin giving that to your children at the age of 15, which is what I did with my son, and my daughter turns 15 next October, and you know, just like that, we're going to take Strengths Finder.
Do it for the adolescents.
Do it. It's so much fun. They love it.
I'll give you a reason why.
Okay.
In the adolescent phase, your child is asking themselves, who am I? Who do I want to be? Where will I be? And if you give them an opportunity to do the $20 Gallup strengths, it could answer one of those questions.
Yes, and it absolutely does.
Who am I? Who am I? And you know how they take on things, they take on roles, like all of a sudden, they're like, I don't know, they love Bob Ross or something. Right? What a wonderful thing to have them, check out and try. And it'd be neat to like, hey, let's take this and we're all going to take it as a family. Or if your child tends to not want to do things that you ask them to do, because that's common in adolescence and that's okay. It's part of adolescence. Maybe ask your sister that they're really good friends with to tell them about Gallup strengths on the side.
Right. And they often will do these fun things with someone else, not their parents, right? So yeah, we can be sneaky about it. So if you have a child from the age of 10 to 14, you can use the assessment called Youth Strengths Explorer. Okay, so you can also Google that, find it through Gallup. And then finally, if they're 10 and below, then you want to use a skill called strengths spotting. Okay, and that's where this book is going to become super valuable for you as a parent. And so strength spotting, really quickly, and I'm just going to refer to page 279 in the book. It gives you different areas of strengths to begin to notice in your children. Okay, for example, are they achievers, right? Do they like to achieve, to win, to compete, right? So that's one category that you want to start paying attention to. Okay,
you guys call that stubborn.
I love that. Right.
Let me change it to parentish.
I love it, parentish. You need to write a book, a dictionary.
Write a parentish book.
A new dictionary. Okay, are they caring? Do they naturally care for others and go up to others who are hurting and maybe pat them back? Can I get you some water? Just naturally bring someone something. Are they nurturers? Pay attention to that. Competing children strive to win, but they have this sense of competition with themselves. It's not that they need to always win. It's just that they want to continue to succeed and win. Okay. Confidence. Do they have a lot of confidence? This can begin to show signs of certain strengths. Strong-willed.
That's what you guys call it.
Dependability. Can you count on them? Right. So maybe in the future they would show up in the relationship category, right? That they're dependable, or maybe in executing they get things done, right? Because in StrengthsFinder we have executing talents, we have influencing talents, we have relationship talents, and we have strategic talents. And all of these different areas that I'm giving you that you can begin to just pay attention to will eventually fall into one of these areas. Okay.
I would say that a child that shows up dependable is that little quiet one that everybody likes to call shy. And if it were up to me, we would not use that label ever for children, because if you slow down long enough to watch one of these children that we call shy, they're actually observers of the world. And
probably learners, and
they are very dependable. That you know exactly how they're going to respond, even if they're going to be afraid to go in the jumpy because they're a shy kid. But they're also observing. They know everything. They're taking it all in. And by the way, just a little tiny tip: if you have one of these little people, know that it takes them 10 minutes to kind of settle into new spaces. Don't rush them.
Beautiful. Are they discoverers? Like explorers? That was my little daughter.
The ones that get into everything.
Yes. And I love it, right? Because we're reminiscing now. And as a child, she always had like 20 things in her hands. Like she would just keep picking things up and she would keep them with her and go to sleep with them. It's so cute. Okay. Future thinkers, right? These are the futuristic ones. Are they always talking about tomorrow and they want to watch science shows about, going to space, and, these are beautiful, beautiful.
The ones that ask you those questions where you're like, Alexa,
I have no idea.
I know what you just asked me, baby.
Are they organizers?
Yes, we know these guys.
Yeah. They have presence. They have just a presence to them. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about this one. Children with presence love to be at the center of attention. Okay. So pay attention to that.
The preschool teacher will be like, es tremendo.
He's always in the spotlight.
There's always a pattern.
They need to be, but isn't it important to know that your child needs to be seen and heard? And how can we work with that? And then relating. right? Relating typically means that they like to have their like handful of friends, handful of people that really lift them up, feed their souls, and they do the same for them. So they're not about large crowds, not about so many friends and being very social. It's about one-on-one personal relationships. So this book is great for strength spotting. The wonderful thing about this is that it also has an assessment. And you get a code in the back where you can take an assessment for your child. So...
And it's just one more,
Yeah.
I would say those of you that are parents that are listening to this, is just one more tool.
Yeah.
It's not the tool. There's no such thing.
There is no
if
such
it was
thing.
the tool,
Yeah.
the person that wrote it would be a gazillionaire. And that's why when you go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble, there's 185,000 books on raising
Correct.
children and parenting. But
Yeah.
I think that of all the tools, there's a lot of tools out there, but I like this one because why I like it as a child development person and as a parenting educator is going to force you to stay in the positive side, in the positive circles of connection with your child. It's going to take you out of the habit of seeing lack.
Yeah.
Because it's going to force you to look at strength.
Yes.
So if you're going to pick a tool, this is a good one.
It's a good one. Give it a try. So thank you for joining us. If you want more resources around this, more tips and tools, articles that I can point in your direction, what I'd like to ask you to do is to text the word flow, so you can flow with your strengths, FLOW in all caps. Text flow to, let's see, 345-345. So get your cell phone, okay? And thank you for joining us, Amarilis. So text the word, again, flow to the number 345-345, and it will instruct you in leaving your email address, and we will send you some information on parenting, on strengths, and however we can support you. We would love to do that. So thank you for joining us on this SOAR with Your Strengths day, and we'll catch you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.